Hello everyone and welcome to another showcase session. My name is Hal and in today's video we're going to put the Diffuse or Sharpen module into practice. As usual in this series, we're going to be working on free photos that I downloaded from the internet, and the link is going to be in the description below. Usually we do one, but I have multiple this time since we're going to be trying the different facets of the Diffuse or Sharpen module. And again, this is all not planned or scripted, so I'm just gonna go through my thought process and we'll see how it works. We'll learn from what goes well and from what goes wrong. Alright, let's crack on. The first photo is a landscape one. I'm going to make sure that the Sharpen module is disabled. You can disable that for all new photos in your settings if you want to. And then I'm going to use the color calibration to make sure that the colors and the white balance is correct. It seems okay. And the filmic to make sure that the blacks are not crushed. I don't think that they are. I can see them all anyway here. It's higher. Can maybe raise it a bit if needed, but I'll raise it. Okay. So I haven't added the module anywhere. I will just search for it. There it is. Enable it. In its default settings it does absolutely nothing. Then it's up to us to see what we want to do. I will keep the iterations, the radius and the radius span and on default, and directly go into the first order to see what we can do with it. Remember, in the speed, positive values cause diffusion or introduce diffusion, and negative values introduce sharpening. Going to crack it to 100 just to see what would happen. That's on full speed. That says on full zoom, I mean. That's 0. That's full diffusion and full sharpening. Of course, that's probably ridiculously bad, too much. But I'm going to play around and let's see what works. Let's start with -50. Okay. Then I'm going to increase the iterations, and you can see that that goes very quickly into artifact zone. Of course, we can try to work with edge sensibility and edge sensitivity or edge threshold to fix that, but that's not needed. Already 18 iterations is way too much, so I'm gonna decrease it. Let's start with 2. This is all just to show how it works. Start with, well, 3 looks to start getting sharper. We don't need it to, maybe we'll see what we want it to do, but for now I'll stick to that. Okay, now we're trying to sharpen here, so the central radius will remain at 0. The fine manual says that the radius span should be approximately the same size of the lens blur, which I have no idea where to get from. It's probably in the technical documentation anywhere, but we're going to just try out what it does. Oh, by the way, if you want more explanation about what each of those controls do, then you should check the Diffuse or Sharpen video from the darktable from A to Z series. The link will be somewhere on the screen now. Alright, let's see what does the radius span do. Again, as usual, I'm just gonna crack it and see what happens. seems that in any case it's introducing what I think is more color and crushing the black. So actually it's introducing saturation. Alright, keep it on 0. I don't think we need it's in any case it's a black and white photo more or less. Let's see, there is a bit of color here. Is that correct? Yeah, you can see. So a bit more noise is there? Not really. I'll keep it as it is. Alright, so let's see what we've done till now. 3 iterations on -50 just on the first order. Yeah, so far so good. Now the manual says to use the second order to try to diffuse some of the noise that might be introduced by the first order. I don't think that we've done a lot of noise, but I'll try to see what will happen. You can see we're blurring some of the... Oh, by the way, those two work on the coarse details, so just in case. Well, it's difficult to actually ascertain since there weren't a lot of noise. Let's see, let's introduce some noise and see if we can fix that just for fun. As you can see, now you can see it very well. I'm just going to see what this would do. Well, I guess we're more or less cancelling it now, aren't we? Pretty much. So let's go back. Oh, that's too much back. This was 3. We had here -50, and I'm gonna put this at 20, and we'll continue. I'm gonna go back and edit all of those. It's just to learn how these work in practice and then see what the effect is. And this is not by any means the best example of how to use it, or I'm saying these are the best values or anything of the sort. It's just trial and error for now. Now I'm going to move to the third order. I'm going to do, well, this is a lot more sensitive from practice. So if I put the -50, it's going to be probably, yeah, see, this looks much too over sharpened with at -50. I think I'll try -25, and then I'll add 20 here as well for the denoise, and let's see what we have till now. Of course, it's all, you should check it at 100%, but you could as well see that's the difference. I hope that that's visible on the video as well, but you can see the difference till now. Alright, we don't have to worry about sharpness here, because this, remember, we only use when blurring the image, so when diffusing, and the point is to reintroduce some sharpness into the image if we've diffused too much, say. But I'm going to have a look if we need some edge sensitivity to redefine the edges, or at least here, not redefine the edges, but actually clear some of the maybe artifacts that we've introduced. And you can do that by increasing the edge sensitivity. Again, I'm going to just, and as you can see, this will introduce a penalty on the module around the edges, so the module will not apply as much on the edges. Of course, this is way too much, but so now without it, and introducing a bit. I'm going to reset it first. I'm going to add some first order speed. Well, that's a bit too much. Let's go back to -50 and maybe add another iteration, say, to try and see. Now you can see a bit of artifacts on the edges, and I'm going to then increase the edge sensitivity until it looks more natural a little bit. Yeah, this looks good. Okay, now we can change the edge threshold, and if we increase that, then the effect will be less prominent in dark areas, and you only use that if the blacks are too crushed. I don't think that they are. I think they started with quite dark, but they're not crushed. Again, maybe you can't see it on the video, but they're still quite good in my view. Okay, I'm gonna compress this. Okay, let's take now a snapshot. Then going to disable the sharpening that we did in the diffuse and sharpen. I'm going to re-enable the sharpen module, and then we're going to see if there is any difference. So this is the sharpen module, and this is the diffuse and sharpen. I think the effect is a lot nicer, and that's even without actually trying really hard. We just went through the module controls just one by one and then played around with them. If you spend a bit more time on it, you could probably get a better effect. Okay, now for this photo, I want to use the diffuse function to try and actually blur the background and introduce some bokeh. There is already some there, but probably the lens was not closed enough, or whatever. It's still too visible, and I think the photo can use some more bokeh or blurring. Let's see. First, disable the sharpen like we did. I'm going to enable the denoise. I'm not going to touch it, just enable it, and make sure that the white balance is acceptable. I'll maybe get it from her eyes. This is just quick and dirty, but just to get to the meat of the diffuse and sharpen module. I'm going to search for it again, enable it, and let's start. First thing I'm going to do is create a mask around her. There we go. Let's try to fix it a bit. I know I said it's going to be quick and dirty, but we won't be very fair on the module if we don't actually do it a bit properly. And I'm just gonna try to get it a little bit following her edges. Okay, well, let's do it like this and then see what needs to be fixed. Maybe another one here. Remember, click and press the control button and click to add a node. Okay, what does that look like? Let's see. Again, you can refer to the masks video from the darktable from A to Z series if you want to learn more about how to create masks, but now it's just a quick one. It's okay, there's a little bit, it's not very well done, but for the purposes of this video I think it will do. Okay, so now we can introduce some diffusion. Again, I'm going to just do them all on 100 to see what do we get. Not much on one iteration. Okay, let's add a few iterations, and now we can change the central radius, which is the scale, and there you go, you can see now and maybe the span as well. Wow, okay, now it's so blurred that you can't see anything, but that shows you what we can do. Now let's get some more sensible values. I'll reset those. I'll put the iteration to reset. Let's start with 10 and a higher central radius and a bit more span. Okay, and let's put 50s on everything. Okay, so far so good. If we wanted to reintroduce some sharpness, we can do this here. Of course not that much, but just to show you what the effect would be. But I don't think I want that, since the whole point was to blur the background, and we could as well use the edge sensitivity if we wanted it to be less on the edges. And as you can see, all the edges will be restored, well, partially restored. But again, that's not what I want, and I don't have to touch the last one either. Alright, since we've already created the mask, we can use another instance of the module to actually sharpen the main subject. I'm going to call this one background, and then create a new one and call it foreground. And this one I'm going to use the same mask, use it a bit, and then I'm going to try and sharpen a bit. Now it's a portrait, so maybe just try to sharpen the edges, and let's see. So not the fine details, but this one's going to do maybe 3 iterations, or let's see, put 4. Oh, of course I was blurring. We should So there you go. Certainly could just have a instance of the module just for her eyes, for instance, and to just denoise a bit to balance the effect, and there you go. Compress, and here is the effect without and with. Again, without, with, both of them. Alright, this third photo we're going to use to try out the presets that come with the module. Again though, I'm going to disable the Sharpen, and I'm going to make sure the color calibration is correct, or at least as correct as possible. I don't think there are any crushed blacks already, I'm not going to bother with that. And let's go and enable the module. Here we go. So you have a whole list of presets here. First one I'm going to try is the denoise. Just put a denoise fine. There's not a lot of noise in the photo to start with, but I'm going to add one just in case we add more noise in the coming modules. I'm gonna name it denoise. It's a very handy feature now that we can add names next to the module instance, because if you come back after a few months or years to look at your photo, it's good to be able to tell at a glance what each instance of the module is doing. Let's create a new one, and I'm gonna call this one local contrast, and guess what I'm going to use with this? Oh yeah, local contrast. And then I'm going to add a third one and call it dehaze, and well, I added a fourth one, but let's put a dehaze in this one first. And wow, I don't need this one. As you can tell, the effect is way too pronounced, I think. But you can use these presets as a jumping point and go in, and if you find that the effect is too much, I think the dehaze is way too much, just change the iterations, and here I'm going to say 5, maybe even less than 5, 2, no, that's a bit too little, yeah, 3. Let's see, we'll compress it, take a snapshot, and let's see what we did. That's without anything. No effects, 3 instances of the module. Excellent, isn't it? Well, let's reset this one to here. Disable this, and I'm going to use the local contrast module. Just enable it, do nothing else. Take a snapshot, then disable it, go back to the diffuse or sharpen, and add a local contrast in this. And here is the difference. Can you see it? There's a bit more actual saturation in this one, and I think the effect is a little bit, I don't know, subtle but nicer. And it helps that you can go in here and change everything that you wanted to. If you want to, you can just pick it up as a starting point and go and again tweak it as you wish. The easiest way is to just change the iterations. You can increase the effect as much as you want. Let's have a look. Or decrease it. Of course, increasing it that much is not recommended unless that's the effect you're looking for, but you see what I mean. Here, 38. That's already overdone in my view, but you get the gist. Okay, last photo. I picked this one because it seems like the focus was on her nose, and I think it's a little bit distracting that the eyes are not as much in focus as, you know, her nose. So let's see if we can use the diffuse or sharpen to fix that, or at least try to fix it. Only going to use the presets for this. Well, not only, but I'm going to start with the presets and see if we need to tweak them, but let's start with that because it's the easier. I'll start with the denoise. I'm not gonna name them now because you get the idea, and then we'll add a local contrast. I'm not sure if that's needed. Probably not really. It adds colors, but definitely not needed on her face. That's then forget about it, and then I'll try the sharpen demosaicing. No, actually that one should be the last one, so I'll first do the lens deblur. Let's try a medium, then add another one, and that one I'm not even sure if it's needed, but let's see if that makes any difference without any tweaking. Take a snapshot and have a look. With. Of course, now we're sharpening everything, and I'm not sure if we wanted to do that. I just wanted to sharpen her eyes. Okay. Well, the first one was noise, so that can be on all of them, but the second one I'm going to add a mask, just have it on the eyes. I can even only add the pupil, that's probably a better idea, but let's try the whole eyes. Let's just see how it goes. Maybe add a bit of feathering. Okay, and then I'm going to add more iterations. Yeah, I hope that you can see it. I'll just put 100 so that it's very prominent. Yeah, it's maybe way too now. But if we go to say 50, yeah, and have a look now, the difference is disable it, enable it, disable it, enable it, and as you can see, the difference now all of a sudden between her eyes and her nose is not that prominent, and your eyes, or the eyes of the viewer, are not automatically directed to her nose bridge instead of her eyes. Let's take a snapshot and I'll show you what I mean. That's the original, and that's the slightly edited version. but I think it makes all the difference in the world. Of course, it's up to you. You can sharpen them more, but I think this is just good enough. You can see a bit more of the details in the pupils, and they pop up, they pop out like they should. Okay, that's gonna be all for this video. I hope that you found it entertaining and interesting. If you have any suggestions or questions or recommendations, please leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.